It is late at night in a university study hall. A student sits with their eyes closed, picturing a perfect score on tomorrow's exam, while the actual textbooks sit entirely untouched on the desk. We are culturally conditioned to believe that picturing a successful outcome is the primary engine for achieving it. The modern self-help industry sells this as manifesting, the idea that visualizing the win will somehow drag the reality toward you. Yet students who spend hours imagining themselves flawlessly delivering a presentation still routinely freeze the moment they step up to a podium. The gap between the daydream and the physical reality remains wide open. That failure occurs because passive wishing ignores the reality of human neuroscience. Visualization is a form of biological practice. This lecture was created by Dr. Danny Kessler, Associate Professor at Dongseo University and Korea's first PhD in wellness tourism. Your brain operates as a prediction machine. Biologically, it struggles to distinguish between a physical event happening in the real world and a highly detailed mental simulation of that exact same event. When you vividly imagine performing a physical action, the identical neural pathways in your motor cortex fire as if you were actually moving your body. Neuroscientists have measured this. They found that subjects who perform purely mental piano practice experience an expansion of their motor cortex at nearly the exact same rate as subjects who physically play the keys. This bar chart overlay illustrates the physical limits of that mental practice. By comparing a 0% baseline to the physical output, we see that purely mental rehearsals of bicep contractions yield a 13% increase in actual physical strength, without the subject lifting a single weight. This proves that focused mental practice physically alters the hardware of the brain. You are building structural architecture before you ever move a muscle. To see how this biological mechanism scales across a lifetime, we can look at macro longevity trends in cities like Busan, South Korea. Now, when older adults practice slow, deliberate exercises in public parks, they are fighting a specific biological decline. Physical aging is characterized by a breakdown in brain-muscle coordination, distinct from the loss of muscle mass. Mental simulation combats this by creating neurological efficiency. It trains opposing muscle groups, like the bicep and tricep, to stop arguing and resisting each other during a movement. By repeatedly rehearsing the movement mentally, you clear the biological static. The brain learns to send a clean, perfectly efficient signal to the body. But here is where the self-help industry fails. If you only visualize holding the gold medal at the finish line, you actively destroy your motivation to get there. Picturing the final victory triggers a premature reward signal in the brain. You experience the chemical satisfaction of winning, tricking your nervous system into believing the work is already complete, which immediately drains the energy required to actually do the work. Elite athletes like Michael Phelps avoid this trap. Instead of fixating on the podium, Phelps visualizes the grueling process. He biologically prepares his brain for environmental friction. He vividly imagines his goggles leaking mid-race, or the chaos of a crowded pool, actively rehearsing how his body will respond to those specific stressors. This clean flowchart outlines the architecture used by elite performers, known as the WOOP framework: wish, outcome, obstacle, and plan. Notice the emphasis on the obstacle. Identifying a strict obstacle does not make you a pessimist. It biologically primes your nervous system to execute a contingency plan under severe stress without freezing. So, if you are a university student stepping up to a podium for a high-stakes presentation, how do you apply this? Stop imagining a standing ovation. Instead, rehearse the social mirror. Mentally simulate your breathing when your heart rate spikes. Visualize exactly how you will pivot your slides if you lose your place, or how you will calmly answer a hostile question from the audience. Mental rehearsal is never a replacement for physical effort. It is simply the necessary neural architecture that allows your effort to succeed when it matters most. To apply this framework to your own work, consider these 3 questions on screen. First, are you currently using visualization as a fantasy or as a simulation? Second, how can identifying a specific obstacle change your neural planning for your next project? And finally, does knowing your brain cannot distinguish between real and imagined change how you view your daily thoughts?